Did you know that 99% of international data is transmitted by wires at the bottom of the ocean called submarine communications cables? These international data include all the internet traffic from the videos you just watched to the last message you sent on your social media account. In fact, these cables are estimated hundreds of thousands of miles long and can be as deep as Everest is tall. No exaggeration involved. While connecting the world through submarine communications cables is not exactly new, as first attempts have been noted since 1854. The modern world has been increasingly dependent on these subaquatic wires. And while this idea has served millions of internet users across the globe, undersea cables have been as vulnerable as there are many ongoing aquatic threats. Sharks aside, the internet cables are at risk of being damaged by boat anchors, trawling by fishing vessels, and natural disasters. What is it for us then? In this video, we will dive into the depths of these buried underwater cables, and we will let us sink into how internet travels underwater. Wouldn't it be nice to know how the information and communications travel underwater as we FaceTime our friends and relatives over the seas? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to New Technology channel. According to Submarine Cable Map, there are currently 493 active subsea internet cables around the globe. These range from 300-kilometer Azerbaijan to Turkmenistan wire running under the Black Sea to 6,600-kilometer Maria cable linking Virginia Beach, USA and Bilbao, Spain. To date, the longest submarine cable system in over a decade is the Asia-Africa-Europe, which is a 25,000-kilometer submarine communications cable system from Southeast Asia to Europe. Apparently, there is now 1.5 million kilometers of undersea data wires, which costs between $300 and $400 million. These data wires are not that thick, typically around the girth of a garden hose, and have layers of protective thixotrophic jelly around the fiber optic core, plus multiple plastic sheets and copper wiring to power the wires. On average, they can transport around 100 gigabytes per second in data, with newer cables able to transmit 400 gigabytes per second. Imagine how such amount of data fit down the slim channels of wire cables. This is possible due to the extremely sophisticated data wrangling technique known as dense wavelength division multiplexing. Dense wavelength division multiplexing is a fiber optic transmission technique. It involves the process of multiplexing many different wavelength signals onto a single fiber. It is used to increase the bandwidth of existing fiber networks and combines data signals from different sources over a single pair of optical fiber, while maintaining the complete separation of the data stream. This happens at buzzing data center-like landing sites at either end of the cable. To note, however, these cables are not just straightforward long wires, since every 70 to 100 kilometers or so along the seabed, these cables are punctuated with repeaters. These repeaters serve as amplifiers and are responsible for keeping the signal strength at par over long distances. To make this possible, these cables have copper conductors that wire up to 10,000 volts of DC to power the repeaters. These cables are coiled into cylindrical drums on specialized cable laying ships. It even takes a year's planning and charting in order to plot the perfect transoceanic route. Planning includes identifying bad locations for undersea cables, such as anywhere volcanic or anywhere prone to earthquake or mudslide, or anywhere heavily trolled by fishermen. Once a good location is determined, the cable is pulled out the back of the ship. As the cable is pulled out the back of the ship at a composed pace of 10 kilometers per hour. Should there be bad weather during this process, the captain can decide whether to break off the cord or tie it to a buoy and retreat to calmer waters once the storm passes. When the storm does, the ship returns to the buoy and picks up the cable where it was left off. In doing so, accidents and outages on the cables can happen. Actually, Hurricane Sandy in 2012, the deadliest hurricane in history to hit US, knocked out several key transatlantic cables, destroying networks for hours. In 2011, Fukushima earthquake in Japan caused similar damage. Majority of disruptions, however, happen due to humans' careless activities such as trawler nets or wayward ships that anchor cables. Cables placed close to the shore are more at risk from disruption, as well as those that are situated nearer to land. The latter, though, are mostly carefully armor-plated, as many are even dug into the seabed in long dedicated trenches carved out at sewing plows. One of the common threats are known to be done by sharks. In 2014, sharks have been spotted nibbling on the subsea cables. While sharks can be dangerous enough, US government has consistently been warned of interference in the cables from hostile foreign powers like Russia and China. It is not a surprise, though, since spies have been a threat to the data these cables carry, as they can tap the data and record them. Whistleblower Edward Snowden even revealed how the NSA tapped on the fiber optic communications. The geopolitical implications of undersea cables that Australian government intervened to prevent Huawei, a Chinese technology company, from installing a cable connecting Australia with Solomon Islands. This is very alarming since China could use the link to gain access to Australia's confidential internal networks. Who actually owns these cables is a very interesting question to mind. Obviously, this is an expensive business, so nations or quasi-national telecom providers picked up the bill. To date, the world's biggest owner of cables is America's AT&T, with a tail of 230,000 kilometers of undersea cable. The second biggest owner is China Telecom. Mostly, these cables are owned by groups or a consortia of up to 50 owners, including tech firms, local government agencies, and other businesses. This system helps spread the costs, but it is actually less helpful when something goes wrong, such as when wiretapping and disruption happen. No specific owner then can be held accountable. Since there is increasingly big scope of growth in internet technology, the overwhelming majority of investment in undersea cable infrastructure has come from companies like Facebook, which owns nearly 100,000 kilometers of cables. Google owns roughly the same amount. Amazon owns massive private network, hooking up the AWS data centers through cables traversing the Atlantic, Pacific, and Indian Oceans, including the Mediterranean and the Red Sea, as well as the South China Sea. To date, cable is the cheapest and most efficient means of transporting vast packets of data over incredibly long distances fast. Only recently, Google and Facebook announced a joint undertaking to build an undersea cable named Apricot that will link up Singapore, Japan, Goa, Philippines, Taiwan, and Indonesia by 2024. What is it for us now? Do you think there are future inventions that can replace how internet data travels across the world? Can this future invention be even safer and faster compared to the underwater cables we have now? Let us know in the comments below. See you in our next video.